Sorry. Welcome. I now call this regular meeting of the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees to order. The time is now 6:06 p.m. Mrs. Guy, was the meeting properly posted?
It was.
And do we have a quorum?
We do.
All right, real quick before we get into anything else, Dr. O'Brien, I'm going to yield to you. You have a little statement you want to talk about, and then I'm going to yield to Vice President Clem to touch on something.
All right, I just wanted to first and foremost inform the audience we did have a fiber optics break this past week, and we understand that some emails were not received, and we wanted to let you know that they were stuck in queue and now discovered. So we do have those just as a technical housekeeping point for the audience. Also, wanted to recognize today's date. As we open tonight's meeting, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of this day as we recognize Juneteenth, a profound day in our nation's history and a celebration of freedom, resilience, and the enduring pursuit of justice. Juneteenth marks this day, June 19th, originally in 1865 when enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas were finally informed of their freedom more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. It is a powerful reminder that the path to equity and justice is ongoing and that ensuring liberty, dignity for all continues today in our classrooms, our community, and systems that we lead. As we reflect on the meaning of this day, we also honor the legacy and leadership of our African American school board members and leaders across our community whose voices, service, and lived experiences help shape a more inclusive and equitable future for all students. Thought it'd be appropriate to share that we're here tonight on this particular day, as it is an expression of our core values as well. With that, I'll defer back to you, President.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan, for that. I've asked Vice President Clem to speak a little bit on one thing that brings everyone in this room together. We all have differing opinions, and it takes every one of those opinions to run a school district and really serve our community. So I've asked Vice President Clem to kind of read over something that brings us together today, and hopefully everyone in this room can agree to it.
And as we all come in for each meeting, we always have on the screens our mission, vision, plan, and core values. But since it's always there, it's really easy to just ignore because we're used to it being there. But if we would look at the mission statement, that's really the reason we're here. I'll just take just a moment to read it. Developing the whole child, the district develops and enhances each learner's intellectual, social, and emotional well-being, facilitated by a highly qualified team committed to growth, community, collaboration, innovation, success, and determination. And let that be the reason we're here tonight.
Thank you so much, Vice President Clem, and thank y'all for indulging that. Let that be our guiding light in everything we do in these meetings, where we could all come together and everything we do is for the mission of the school district. With that, before we get to citizens' participation, we do have a public hearing. Dr. O'Brien, I'll turn it over to you.
Dr. Conklin, did you have opening statement?
Yes, sir. Good evening, President Peacey.
My apologies.
That's right.
I'm moving.
I was about to do a song and dance.
I'm 6 minutes late, but making up for it. My apologies. Dr. Conklin, if you would, go ahead with opening exercises.
Well, good evening, Mr. Peacey, board members, Dr. O'Brien. School's out for summer, so we don't have kids, so board members will be doing our open exercises. Ms. Guy will lead us in a prayer, followed by our pledges by Mr. Martinez.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve our students, families, and community. Grant us wisdom, unity, and clarity as we make decisions that impact young lives. May our discussions be guided by fairness, respect, and a shared vision for the future. Bless this meeting and all who are present. Amen.
Okay, there are no acknowledgments or recognitions this evening, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Now I will yield to Dr. O'Brien. We do have a public hearing before citizens' comments. Dr. O'Brien.
Our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Bridget Clark, will be presenting tonight for the public hearing. The public hearing is exactly as it says, for the public. So she'll be presenting tonight the 25-26 proposed budget and tax rate. At the closure of her presentation, she will solicit input from any audience members who may have questions or thoughts or ideas that they'd like to contribute to this public hearing. Ms. Clark, we'll turn it over to you, ma'am. You've got 3 minutes. No.
Yes, sir. I'll go fast. All right, give me just a moment here. Let's see. All right, so this evening, this is the grand finale of our budget process, and it ends with the public hearing. So Dr. Bollinger was not able to be with us this evening. It's probably a good thing because I'm a little, I picked up a little something, so it's probably good for him. He's not sitting by me right now. But with that, I will go ahead and get started on this public hearing. It shouldn't be a whole lot of new information under the sun, but you know, we did have some activity since our last meeting. So we'll talk about property values and tax rates, the legislative update and the legislative news, compensation update, and of course the proposed budgets and next steps. So we got our preliminary property values, and they are looking basically flat. I mean, we have a little bit of increase in M&O and a slight decrease in INS, but you know, when you're talking about 20 billion and 18 billion, you know, 76 million on that and 33 million on INS is not very significant. However, these are apt to change. They usually do change once the certified values come in, because there's a lot of new property that may not have been included on the roll at that time. Also, of course, there are property protests going on. And so until we know the results of those property protests, we don't have the certified value. So that continues to go on at our CADs. All right, tax rates. Of course, we can't set our tax rates until we get certified values, and that won't be until, of course, the July 25th date. Harris County usually doesn't give us their certified values until the end of August. So because they're such a large entity, it does take them a little bit longer. We're expecting probably slight decrease in M&O tax rate, although it's not reflected here because we don't have the certified values yet, and we don't have the maximum compressed rates set forth by Texas Education Agency. So right now we're just showing a flat year over year zero increase, but we will see some slight compression with an M&O tax rate whenever we are ready to adopt tax rates. All right, so since we last met, House Bill 2 was signed into law by the governor on June the 4th. So we met on June 2nd, and then it wasn't signed into law until June 4th, but we are very happy that it did get signed into law. It gave a pretty substantial raise to our teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience getting $2,500, and teachers with 5+ years of experience getting a $5,000 raise. It also had a non-teacher, non-administrative allotment for raises at $45 per average daily attendant, giving us just under $1 million for that one. An allotment for basic costs, which we're using to offset the insurance, the health insurance costs that we've experienced that have been exorbitant over the last forever, I guess, but especially in the last few years. We got about $2.5 million for that. It'll certainly help. It won't offset all the cost increases, but it will help. Also, there was a safety allotment increase from $10 to $14 per student, and also a per campus increase from $15,000 to $37,000, which gave us about $800,000 more. Again, it's not enough to cover the cost that we had to invest in security for per campus officers, as well as all the safety regulations that were handed down by Texas Education Agency, like fencing and all. It had quite a laundry list of items that were unfunded mandates. So we've been trying to catch up with those expenses and being able to pay for those. So we'll take the help on that for sure. So the compensation highlights incorporating House Bill 2 provisions. So just to spell it out, 0 to 2 years of teachers with 0 to 2 years of experience will receive a general pay increase of the 2%, or $1,375 each, because House Bill 2 specifically and expressly included in the bill 3 to 4 years of experienced teachers and 5+ years of experienced teachers. The 3 to 4, again, 3 to 4 years of experience are going to get about a 3.8% raise, or $2,500 total. And then the 5+ years of experience will receive anything from 6.4 to 7.6% raise, or $5,000 total. So very substantial, wonderful raise to be able to give to our teachers. Staff on the teacher pay scale that are not considered classroom teachers. So prior to House Bill 2, we had some employees who were on the teacher pay scale who weren't actually classroom teachers. And so the recommendation from TEA and TASBO and other organizations are to place them on a separate salary scale now, since they have been separated by House Bill 2. And we have done that, and we made that recommendation to TASB in the final report, and we are recommending a 3.5% raise for this group only. And then all other staff will receive the 2% raise that was approved at last board meeting on the 2nd. All right, so the compensation plan update. So on the 2nd, the board approved option 1, which was to adopt the compensation plan as originally presented in May, with 2% general pay increase for all, because House Bill 2 had not been signed into law, right? We didn't feel comfortable, the board didn't feel comfortable moving forward with that without, with the provisions of House Bill 2 without it actually being signed into law. And as a result, the proposed budget was legally posted, is being proposed this evening, and must be adopted without the provisions of House Bill 2 included because of that. And we'll get into how we're going to handle that. It's not business as usual. This isn't something we're accustomed to doing, but this is how it has to play out time-wise on the action items list. So the very first thing that we'll have to do, and these are the action items you'll see further down on the agenda, the very first action item is a standalone action item, and that is to consider adoption of the 25-26 proposed budget as posted without the provisions of House Bill 2. Then the second action item is also a standalone action item. It's on the compensation plan revision. What we're going to do, because we had some questions and some confusion, just the cleanest and least confusing way to handle this probably is to retract the 2% general pay increase we had for teachers with 3 to 4 years and 5+ years, and add the $2,500 and $5,000 raises from House Bill 2 respectively. Otherwise, there was confusion on, well, are we going to get, the 2% plus and that sort of thing. So I think the cleanest way and the least confusing way is to retract it and then replace it. Similarly, retract the 2% raises on the individuals who are on the teacher salary scale who are not classroom teachers, and replace with that 3.5% raise. And then the third action item, this one is in consent agenda. It is to consider approval of the 25-26 budget amendment to include the provisions of House Bill 2. So we're going to amend the 25-26 budget that was legally posted as it had to be without House Bill 2 provisions, and then we're going to immediately, after the budget is adopted and after the compensation plan is amended, we're going to include the provisions of House Bill 2 in that budget amendment for 25-26. So it has to go in that order for legal purposes, and that will clean house and make everything very, very succinct and very, very easy to explain. So this is the budget that we, that does not have House Bill 2 provisions. This is what we adopted, and this is what was legally posted. And you see that first column there, general fund, that third line from the bottom, that's the $3.6 million deficit number that we adopted with the 2% general pay increase that was approved in May. So that should look very familiar because you all saw this last time. So that's prior to House Bill 2. And then the second action item is going to be consider approval of revised 25-26 compensation plan. And it's going to retract the 2% raises for teachers with 3 to 4 and 5+ years of experience, and add the $2,500 and $5,000 raises respectively to align with House Bill 2. And then we will retract that 2% for those employees that were on the teacher salary schedule but are going to be moved to their own pay scale, and replace that with the 3.5% raise. Now, what is the amended budget after you approve the budget amendment? This is what it's going to look like for after the 25-26 budget is amended. So this now includes the provision of House Bill 2. It includes that extra revenue, and it also includes the extra expenses But you see there's that third line from the bottom in that first column. Now we have a surplus of $3.7 million. And that should also look very familiar because this is what was presented last time as an estimate as to what it would look like once those provisions were put in place. All right, so that is the end of the presentation. I'll open it up for questions, should you have any.
If anyone has questions, please come to the microphone so it'll be caught on the recording.
My question, I'm going to be speaking later on, but this is just pertaining to this.
Correct.
My question is, there's TLCs and TICs that are teachers also classified as teachers. So I noticed that they're stipulating classroom teachers, but they are the ones that teaching the teachers. How are y'all classifying them exactly on this budget? That's I need a clarification on that.
They fall into the category that I discussed here in the second bullet. They fall into this 3.5% increase because they're getting moved to another salary scale because based on the definition by Texas Education Agency, they are not considered a classroom teacher of record, although they support classroom teachers certainly, and we value them. That's why we're giving those individuals and those employees higher than the 2% general pay increase to give them some equity, but they're not defined as classroom teachers as per House Bill 2, and so we made that compromise to give them more than what the rest of the employees are getting with 2%.
Okay, I read the legislation, House Bill 2, and that's not what I read from that. Y'all must be interpreting it a little bit different because when I read it, it stated all teachers, and they're classified as teachers. Whether they're in the classroom or not, they are teachers. So I think I'm going to have to talk to Briscoe and Mays Middleton and Governor Abbott because there's a lot of interpretation there, and I think y'all are misinterpreting what they're stating because they are teachers, and they are teachers to teach to teachers. So actually, they should be considered a little bit above teachers' pay and a little bit more because it doesn't come up to the 3.5, doesn't come up to the 7% that the teachers are actually getting. So
right, and it's still unfolding. So if there are some corrections or changes, which there will be, I mean certainly because the bill has just been signed into law in the last couple of weeks. So
and we still are in the period of time in which the commissioner will interpret many of these things to deliver to school districts. But you were going to say something?
So
yes.
We just got back from training, and a lot of the presentations about House Bill 2 were saying that to be considered a teacher, you had to you have to be actually in front of children teaching 4 periods of the day, 4 hours of the day.
that's not how I read it, but like I said, I will call my senators
For sure,
and
call.
stuff. And
maybe they can get something
there's
done.
always a opening of the interpretation. And like I said, I read it, and I am on the legislative committee, so I will be calling them to clarify it a little bit better.
That's a great idea.
We would love to be able to include these with,
Yeah, I wish that we could give everybody that works in the district the 7.5% raise.
We would love
or
to.
at least the same raise across the board, but unfortunately the legislators kind of tied our hands with that.
Right, they didn't fund, and I mean, if they say they're included and they fund it, then we're absolutely happy, more than happy, ecstatic to do it. We would much rather not have to separate, these folks from the teacher salary scale if we didn't have to, but.
And those teachers are paid a little bit more since they're the ones instructing the teachers, correct?
Which ones?
The TLCs and the TIs.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Additional days as well, stipend.
Yes.
Because they have to be under a different kind of recommendation to be above for the teachers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's my questions, and I'm still going to speak on this a little bit later because, like I said, I've been talking to a lot of the teachers, and I know a lot of the teachers, and I don't know, I guess it would be kind of awkward for them to come and speak since they're teachers, and I'm being an advocate for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews.
Back on the property values,
Yes, sir.
just point out to everyone, if you don't mind, that preliminary value of 18.5 billion does not include the new 140,000 homestead exemption.
That is correct.
That number will be compressed a great bit.
It will probably go down about 1.2 billion.
And then on the next page, I just want you to reiterate, because I think this is important, that we've based our budget on a tax rate of 107.25, but the M&O compression may lower that. So
There will be a slight decrease in that M&O tax rate due to compression. Yes, sir.
We're all looking at our crystal ball, hoping for the best.
Yes, sir. He did. He did. Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the audience or from our Board of Trustees? Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you so much.
I was laughing because she was cleaning off the microphone. It was legit.
Thank you for that.
I keep getting logged out of board.
For the next speaker. Happens to be Sakers.
Actually, we have citizens participation next. Yeah. It keeps logging me out every time I leave it. All right, we will move on to item number 4 on the agenda, citizens participation. Citizens participation is the time that the board will hear public concerns or public comments from those who have properly signed up to address the board. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. General public comment is limited to no more than 30 minutes per meeting. At all other board meetings, public comment shall be limited to open session items on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. Each speaker is reminded that he or she is limited in his or her presentation to a maximum of 3 minutes, which can be further limited or reduced by the presiding officer, and that he or she should respect confidentiality concerns and refrain from attacking the personal character of any individual student, staff member, board member in addressing concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy BE legal, the board cannot consider or take action on concerns at this meeting unless they pertain to an item on the posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. With that being said, we have 8 speakers signed up to speak today. I'll call you one at a time. Mrs. Guy, our secretary, will keep time. If you would, come to the microphone, state your name and the topic you're speaking on. First up is Brandon Terry.
I'll also give you a warning when you have 1 minute left.
Mr. Terry, if your microphone's green, you're good to go. If it's not, you need to press that little button.
All right. I'm here to speak about George Crow's nomination for the field house at Star Stadium. My name is Brandon Terry, a native Baytonian, the son of Frank and Jean Terry, REL class of '64. I'm here tonight because I love my hometown's history. The first thing I thought of when I saw a picture of the ribbon cutting of the new field house at Stallworth was George Crow. So I wrote a letter to the editor of the Baytown Sun and made a post on Russell Hammond's Baytown History site on Facebook with my intention to nominate our new field house, and it should be named after George Crow. My post received hundreds of responses. One stated Baytown has a gem in Mr. Crow and would be wise to honor him. Another one said, if you knew Mr. Crow, you would vote for him. So who was George Crow? He was one of the first certified athletic trainers in the entire state of Texas and was instrumental in establishing the early protocols. In fact, when many trainers heard you were from Baytown, they would ask, do you know George Crow? That's the respect Mr. Crow received throughout the state. He put Baytown on the map. Early in his career, Mr. Crow was the trainer in 1963. When my dad, Frank Terry, was a team captain, the Ganders beat the #1 ranked team in the state, Galena Park, which ranks as one of our all-time greatest victories. Then in 86-87, I finally made my way to Lee, and Mr. Crow was still there. In the Ganders season opener in 1986 at Star Wars Stadium, we endured a 63-0 shellacking by Lamarck, one of the worst losses in our storied history. But through the highest of highs and lowest of lows, Mr. Crow was always there to patch us up and get us ready for our next challenge. He did this for 41 years and impacted generations of Baytonians. His counterparts from his era have already been recognized for their service by the district. Principal Henry Armstrong,
1 minute.
Coach Pete Soltis, and Coach Ron Kramer. Trainer George Crow is the logical next in line. Growing up in Baytown, I had the privilege of knowing each of these men. They meant so much to us, and I strongly believe Mr. Crow deserves to be honored along with them. I want to close by stating George Crow is still alive and kicking at 90 years old. He still lives in Baytown. With a career this noteworthy, let's honor this great Baytonian.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Our next speaker will be Keith Marshall. Again, state your name and the topic you'll be speaking on, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Keith Marshall. I'm here to advocate for Coach Al Dennis to be nominated for the new field house at Stallworth Stadium. I met Coach Dennis as an 8th grader at Highlands Junior High. Our team had won the district championship, and he came out to Highlands to give us a trophy, but he brought something with him other than the trophy. He brought a helmet. He brought had a silver helmet with a blue star on it, and he held that up and he said, "Gentlemen, I am going to build a program." This was in 1972. "I'm going to build a program that every high school in this state is going to know who Baytown Sterling is." And he had every one of us in the 8th grade on the edge of our seat. And he did that. In 1972, as y'all remember, he took a team to the state championship game. Howard Sampson was a part of that team, and it was a magnificent team. In 1973, when I enrolled at Sterling High School as a freshman, we went through freshman orientation, and there was the cafeteria was full of kids that wanted to be a part of Coach Dennis's program. He came in, he spoke, we got up, we went through orientation, and we started the program. I ended up being one of his quarterbacks. I quarterbacked this 1976 team. He not only taught me how to be a good quarterback, but he also taught me how to be a leader, how to go through life and be the kind of person that I needed to be. When I graduated from college, he called me and he congratulated me on my graduation from college. And he asked me what I was going to do. And I told him I was going to be a banker. And I've been a banker for 50 years. And I follow everything this man has taught me. He once said to me one time in a private meeting, quarterback meeting, he said, "If is the biggest word in an athlete's life." He said, "Don't go through life thinking, if I would have done this, if I would have done that." And I have tried to live by that mantra, is not to live with a bunch of ifs out there. So I would greatly appreciate if y'all would consider Coach Al Dennis to be the naming of the new field house, which I understand is absolutely magnificent. And it would be an honor to see his name on that. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Our third speaker will be Wade Hicks.
Thank you. My name is Wade Hicks. I'm also here to speak on behalf of Coach Al Dennis. I was a 1977 graduate of Ross Sterling High School and a member of the 75-76 Sterling Rangers under Coach Al Dennis. Mark Casey penned, who was a Sterling graduate of 1980, he penned a touching nomination that in favor of Coach Dennis. Hopefully y'all received that letter today. That letter includes a growing list of former athletes that support the nomination. I'd also like to thank Carl Thies. He's kept us focused and provided lots of history and data on Coach Dennis and Goose Creek football as well. Keith Marshall and I are here tonight to speak on behalf of those on the list and hundreds more of our fellow friends and former students and athletes in favor of Coach Dennis. As I understand it, the nominating requirements, according to the board policy, is one, an outstanding president of the United States, which I don't think that applies tonight, an early pioneer of Goose Creek area and the state of Texas. That surely can apply to some of the quality nominations. And third, a living or deceased person who has attained local or national prominence in education, science, art, statesmanship, political science, or military achievement, and I'm assuming most fall under that category. I'm not sure what the inside baseball requirements are for the board to name the new facilities, but if the name you're looking for was a Cedar Bayou Bear and a Robert E. Lee Gander, who was a standout football and basketball player, and Mr. Robert E. Lee himself, then we hope that name is Al Dennis. If the name you're looking for was a coach at Sterling under Roland Cudla and Jim Hess, and then in 1972, at the age of 29, became the head coach of Ross Sterling and took that team promptly to the state championship against Odessa Permian, we hope that name is Al Dennis. If the name you're looking for was a teacher in Goose Creek, a coach, head of food services for 3 years, a principal at Horseman for 4, then we hope that name is Al Dennis. He fulfilled every category in Goose Creek, from student, teacher, coach, administrator. If the name you're looking for in the man has honor, integrity, humility, and character, a man who taught hundreds of young student athletes that our character was more important than our athleticism, that our athleticism would fade, but our character would last a lifetime, then I hope that name is Al Dennis. If the name you're looking for is for a good Christian man, I mean, he did not quote us scripture. He did not lecture to us about becoming or being a better Christian, but a man by his everyday actions bore untold fruit. Galatians 5:22 states, the fruit of the Holy Spirit is love, joy, peace, perseverance, moral excellence, inherent goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. Those were all qualities Coach Dennis had attributes of. Dan Stallworth was had an incredible record.
Time has expired. Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
thank
Hicks. I'm sorry, you didn't hear.
Good. I didn't hear.
We want to make sure we're fair to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our fourth speaker is David Isaac.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent, and President. I'm David Isaac, and I hail from Baytown, Texas. I'm here to rise to speak in favor of naming the Professional Development Building after Miss Susan Moore Fontenot. It says here on this board here that honored you guys that the board recognizes the importance of creating a culture of mutual respect and trust among all members in the community, in the education community. Someone was put into the director of personnel seat in the 1980s who appointed many of our teachers that raised many of our kids in this community from the 80s up until today. Many of our teachers, many of our gift givers, many of our finest educators were hired by Ms. Susan Moore Fontenot when she was led to lead the director of primary education from the 1980s onward. When we talk about culture, first I should thank you guys. Should say happy Juneteenth to you. It is a federal holiday. I do appreciate seeing Dr. O'Brien there last year. And what other day would you consider naming a building after an African-American woman who made a major cultural impact in this town? We got plenty of buildings named after some old white guys. No offense to the old white guys that spoke tonight. I liked your speech. But we got plenty of those buildings. And Miss Susan Moore Fontenot should be one of those names considered to be named. Now, I don't agree with what I call the Betancourt Doctrine. The city had its issues naming buildings after people, and one of our councilmen, Betancourt, had the idea that we shouldn't name buildings after living individuals. I am solely against that idea. I think when the time is right and it calls for it, that we should give people their flowers while they are here. Ms. Moore-Fontenot, on her own terms, after serving here and during serving here, was elected to the Lee College School Board, the first African-American woman elected locally here in town, and on her own terms, by her own will, decided to lead for 40 years. Back in the Reagan administration, some women couldn't even open bank accounts on their own during that time. She created the Bear 2 program, a scholarship to help several students turn into teachers. She created social infrastructure. While many people build roads and bridges, Ms. Susan Moore-Fontenot built social infrastructure for our students for upward mobility in this town. Please do not forget that when you go back there and you think about some names who professionally developed individuals in this town. On this Juneteenth, I would like for you to consider what is important to the culture of our town, not just today, but yesterday and tomorrow. Susan Moore-Fontenot today, Susan Moore-Fontenot yesterday, Susan Moore-Fontenot tomorrow. I'm David Isaac. I thank you for your time. And while I got some time, you can name that building, that other building after anybody. One of those ladies who spoke had nice shoulders. She could be a nice linebacker. We're all like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. Speaker number 5 is Wra Holland.
Hello, I'm Wra Holland, and I'm here to speak on...
Ms. Holland, if you would, pull that microphone down.
Okay, which way? I'm always confused with these
Just
things.
point it to you.
Down?
Mr. Isaac was
thank
very
you.
tall.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like I'm echoing. Okay.
And we'll give you your full time.
Okay, all right. I stand here this evening to ask you to honor a great pioneer of our school district and our town and name the new field house after the late Dr. Herbert H. Duke. Some of you may be wondering who Dr. Duke was. If Dan Stallworth's name was not on our football stadium, I feel sure there were some who would be wondering the same thing about him. Dr. Duke graduated from the University of Texas at Austin, where he played football. In 1921, Dr. Duke moved to Goose Creek to teach chemistry and become the first coach at our first high school, which was named Goose Creek High School, and it was located where Carver Elementary stands today. For a couple of summers, he even worked in the Goose Creek oil fields to earn money to attend medical school. After teaching and coaching for a couple of years, he then enrolled at the University of Texas Medical School in Galveston. After receiving his medical degree in 1929, he returned to Goose Creek to practice medicine. In 1930, he and Dr. Gordon A. Lilly opened Lilly Duke Hospital. Although the two-story hospital that brought thousands of Baytonians into the world and saved thousands of lives closed in 1966. The building still stands today overlooking Town Square. In 1955, Superintendent George Gentry wanted to institute a program of heart education in junior and senior high schools. Dr. Duke ensured that each of the schools received a large plastic and synthetic heart that illustrated the inner workings of this vital organ. From 1935 to the 60s, Dr. Duke was the team physician for the Robert E. Lee Ganders. Not only was he their team doctor, but he was also their #1 fan, counselor, and friend to all the coaches and players. His good friend, the late Fred Hartman, referred to Dr. Duke as a, quote, well-known sawbones and football fan. In a 2003 Baytown Sun article entitled Athletic Trainers Owe a Big Debt to the Team Doctor, retired athletic trainers George Crow of Lee and Bill Parrish of Sterling praised Dr. Duke, calling him, quote, a legend in his time, unquote. The comment went on to state what Dr. Duke pioneered at Lee led the way for others like Doctors George Walmsley, W.D. Jones, Robert Hill, H.W. Kilpatrick, Lewis Hughes, James Sammons, Cleve Partner, P.T. Eichelberger, Charles George, James Walmsley, James Pye, and the list keeps going on and on. When Dan Stallworth was the coach at Lee, Dr. Duke was the team physician. Dr. Duke and Coach Stallworth were very close friends. Naming the field house after Stallworth Stadium after Dr. Herbert H. Duke would be creating a full circle for the two great gentlemen who made history both on and off the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Speaking number 6 will be Nicholas Rice.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Nicholas Rice. I'm a Baytown resident, and I'm coming to you this evening to respectfully ask for your consideration for the naming of the Stalworth Stadium Fieldhouse after the late Dr. Herbert H. Duke Sr. 3 minutes is just simply not enough time to describe all of the amazing accomplishments that Dr. Duke achieved in his life, so I will just go over some of the highlights. Dr. Duke first moved to Baytown in 1921 at the age of 22, where his first job here was teaching chemistry and coaching at the new Goose Creek High School. Dr. Duke subsequently attended medical school at the University of Texas, but he quickly found his way back to Baytown. Dr. Duke opened a small clinic and a hospital in a framed cottage at the corner of Pierce and Ashbell for a few years. Subsequently, Dr. Duke and Dr. Gordon Lilly opened Baytown's second hospital called Lilly Duke Hospital, which remained open for 30 years and which its two-story building still stands today. From 1935 until the 1960s, he served as a team physician for the Robert E. Lee Ganders. Dr. Duke delivered thousands of babies, many of which are still in the Baytown area today. Dr. Duke was also the president of the Baytown Rotary Club, a member of the Texas Medical Society, the American Medical Association, the East Harris County branch of the Harris County Medical Society, as well as countless other medical associations. He also organized the Touchdown Club, where coaches, players, and fans had weekly lunch meetings. As a few highlights on Dr. Duke's career, in 1947, Dr. Duke saved the life of Pele policeman Cleve Dickens, who had accidentally been shot while on a fishing trip with Dr. Duke, providing emergency life-saving care even as being on a pleasure trip. While coaching at Goose Creek High School, he helped a young teacher, Miss Hazel Cape, who later married Hugh Eccles Jr., solve the problem of truancy among the players who were skipping school. Dr. Duke is part of our history and should be remembered for pioneering the way in our school district and community. Dr. Duke inspired others in our community to become the next generation of leaders, namely Dr. George Walmsley. As Dr. Walmsley explained, Dr. Duke interested me and encouraged me to become a doctor. From the time I was a kid in Robert E. Lee, he helped. He's the Gander team physician then and now. Finally, as you consider all nominations presented to you, I ask that you please review the recent changes and historical precedents of the board policy CW Local governing the facility naming process. All board members received an email from me last week concerning this change, and I thank the two trustees for acknowledging my correspondence. The Facilities Names Committee worked very hard and thoroughly discussed this topic and overwhelmingly voted against recommending the change that you adopted last November. I urge you to carefully consider these facts in your decision making tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Speaking number 7 is Marga Matthews.
She already spoke. I'm just kidding.
Now Marga Matthews gets to speak on anything she would like to.
Actually, before y'all start timing me, I kind of feel like I'm out of place because I know a lot of the naming stuff's coming on, and I did submit a naming email for y'all to read, but I have the other email that I'm going to read that pertain to what the budget was a while ago, but I'm going to go ahead and read it.
Okay. Please
even though y'all going to investigate.
Yeah, please start with your name and what you're speaking on, and then your time will begin.
Okay. Marga Matthews, and I will be speaking about the budget. Dear board members, today I want to speak briefly about the vital roles of our teaching and learning coaches, TLCs, and technology and integration specialists, TISs, in Goose Creek CISD, specifically regarding their compensation and their impact on the rollout of the Bluebonnet high-quality instructional materials. First, on funding and stipends. TLCs and TISs carry responsibilities beyond the classroom, supporting teachers and driving district-wide instructional and technology initiatives. The district has worked to recognize that by allocating a $3,000 stipend for each row advocated for by leaders in curriculum and technology, these stipends acknowledge their expanded duties and commitment. However, the compensation clarity is needed. While a 3.5 raise is proposed, many TLCs and TISs have noted this does not align with the 7.5% plus raises seen by classroom teachers. With stipends added on top, their overall pay increase still falls short in comparison. This raises valid concerns about equity and retention for those in these critical support roles. Greater transparency in how these figures are calculated is essential in moving forward. Regarding the HQIM rollout, the TLCs have led teacher coaching workshops and implementation support to ensure Bluebonnet materials are used effectively. TISs have handled the digital integration, troubleshooting, training, and ensuring platforms run smoothly. Their collaboration has been key to successful adoption across campuses. In conclusion, the TLCs and TISs are essential to our district's instructional and technology success. I ask the board to continue reviewing their compensation structure to ensure it reflects their value. These educators are driving change. Let's make sure they feel supported and recognized for it. Thank you so much. And I'm going to highlight some of the legislation that I have in hand at home. And like I said, I'll be calling, and whatever I get, I'll be submitting it to the board of what they state about the interpretation, how it reads, because I know there were some paragraphs that came and kind of stood out. So I'll inform y'all when I get informed. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Our final speaker for the evening will be Van Duke.
Good evening. My name is Van Duke. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of my family. Thank you to the board. I'm here to request your consideration to name the field house at Stallworth Stadium in honor of my grandfather, Dr. Herbert H. Duke, Sr. It's difficult for me to speak about my grandfather because he passed away before I was old enough to appreciate what a great man he was. However, throughout my life, I've had the pleasure of hearing many stories about my grandfather, the pleasure of hearing these stories with very vivid words and phrases which are used to describe him. Words such as serious, nice, unique, maverick, passionate, quite a character. Usually that one comes with a wink and a smile. Most of these stories are great tales of his hunting and fishing exploits, but occasionally I hear one about him performing a life-saving surgery or his dedication to medicine. Through the years, I've met numerous Baytonians that have come to me to tell me what a great doctor he was, what a nice person he was, and that they or their family member was born at the Lily Duke Hospital, and many other stories of who he was. I've also heard stories about his love of football and how he was a teacher and a coach before he became a doctor. Yes, before he became a doctor, he was the first coach at Goose Creek High School. He was also a teacher, a longtime volunteer coach, and served as the district's physician. The example set by my grandfather wasn't just one we admired, it's one we followed. Our family has always believed in the power of education, mentorship, and public service. The legacy of our family is deeply rooted in education and healthcare. My mother, Anna Ruth Duke, a former drum major at Robert E. Lee High School, earned her degree in education and went on to serve as a drill team instructor. She later completed her master's degree and worked as an elementary school counselor for many years. My brother, Stuart Duke, devoted 31 years to teaching high school government and economics. My sister, Stacy Duke, was a coach and teacher in Goose Creek and a counselor in other areas for over 33 years. I have worked as a social worker with communities in schools and now own Duke Medical Equipment. Finally, our father, Dr. Herbert H. Duke Jr., served as an associate professor at the University of Texas in Houston and practiced medicine in Baytown for over 40 years. There's so much more that could be said of what a great man my grandfather was. Naming the field house after Dr. Herbert H. Duke Sr. is not just about honoring one man, it's about recognizing a legacy of service, of excellence, of compassion, and appreciation to this community. It would serve as a permanent reminder to students walking through those doors that greatness doesn't just come from talent, but from dedication, heart, and the will to serve others. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. And that concludes citizens' participation. We'll move on to item number 5, approval of minutes. And we will begin with the May 6, 2025 regular board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion on this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I second.
I have a motion from Ms. Helen Barat-Timms and a second by Mr. Martinez. Do we have any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor, please show by raising your hand. We have 7 for, 0 against. It passes. Next item is the approval of minutes for the May 15, 2025 special board meeting.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Martinez. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mrs. Guy. Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussion on this item, all in favor, please signify by showing a raising of the hand. We have 7 for, 0 against. The motion passes. Next item on the agenda, discussion items, superintendent report. Dr. O'Brien, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, President Campisi, tonight during superintendent's reports, we have one presentation coming to us in regards to our benefits department. Dr. Ellen Akers will be presenting.
All right, I need technology support.
He's coming.
I broke it.
You didn't break mine's acting funny too.
You have just a minute, Dr. Akers, if you will. Introduce your guest here in a moment. You had to press that button.
All right, good evening, Dr. O'Brien, President Campisi, and trustees. I wanted to take a few moments this evening to say thank you to you for your unwavering support through our transition to a new benefits plan last fall. Your commitment has been instrumental in helping us navigate this critical shift with stability and focus. Tonight, we just wanted to take a few moments to review the mid-year performance of the plan we adopted. And I think what's most important to remember is that healthcare remains the single largest driver of benefits-related expenses. The continued rise of chronic conditions, notably cancer and diabetes, and the new drugs and treatments associated with the treatment of those diseases has significantly impacted the overall cost structure for all employers with healthcare. And so my job is to strike that critical balance between maintaining those rising costs, but making sure that we offer our employees a comprehensive benefits plan, because that is one of our #1 tools in recruiting and retaining top-notch talent. Our association that we began last fall with TASB and their cooperative and led us to Gallagher Benefits has been instrumental in the success of this plan. I have with me tonight Derek Eco. He is our broker from Gallagher, and he's going to be presenting with me. And I just want to let you know that the customer service that we've received from Gallagher, from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and from First Financial has been nothing less than exceptional. So we're very pleased with that. First of all, I want to begin with just looking at a historical claims cost. Starting with the September of 2023, the full plan year there would have been until August of 24. And then we ran that short plan year from September to December. And as you can see from those escalating costs, that was the critical factor in helping us decide that we needed to make a transition.
So additionally, when we look at your claims on a regular basis, we are running on a lagged basis. Obviously, it takes some time to get claims through. Traditionally, in a mid-year overview, we look previously at how your claims ran and what the drivers of those costs are. And so when we look at those, that's what you're going to see in these next few slides. On the left-hand side is the type of claims that are running through your plan. Inpatient hospital stays are obviously going to be the most expensive. If you've ever stayed in a hospital, you know that they find themselves very expensive, right? Better than a four or five-star hotel. And then so on and so forth down. So as you can see, your inpatient spend was really what was the driver of your costs last year. On the right-hand side, we're taking two separate time periods just to look at your short plan year versus the plan year prior. And the reason that we're looking at those is to make sure that we're keeping those claims honest. As you saw, there was a huge spike in those claims. We didn't know how those were adjudicating. We don't know where they came from. And so we had to really go back into those positions to make sure that we understood them. So as you can see, your medical your medical inpatient admissions are falling in there far ahead, but then you push into September to December, which is a very shorter time, and you're still getting a high inpatient admission. So we do see these things increasing, which is causing a large majority of your plan spend. Additionally, if you see in the top procedures, these are things that we're looking at as to why your plan is running the way that you are. So imaging and radiology is one of the things that's really pushing. Those high costs are definitely going to be in those MRIs, those x-rays, those type of things that are really going to push your plan spend. And then so on and so forth down. Another thing to call into question again is your inpatient days. The longer somebody stays in a hospital, the more it's going to cost you money. So we're definitely looking at those things. If we can get in front of chronic conditions, then we're going to do better in those inpatient days, right? Less sickness leads to less days, and so on and so forth. So we definitely want to establish greater opportunity, whether that's to get in front of your PCP, whether that's to engage in one of the many programs through Blue Cross Blue Shield to make sure that we're bringing down these chronic conditions. On the right-hand side, you can see the types of imaging and screening we're calling into question because of the $2.6 million in spend. So as you can see, they were continuing to grow. You had 300 CT scans in a period between September and December, but with 12 months previously to that, you had 354. So we can see those scans really growing, which is causing part of your spend. So we definitely want to keep our eye on it. If we can find other programs or ways to be able to move people away from scans, that is something that we do want to do. Additionally, when we look at your top providers, this is where we're actually looking at some of your data that we currently have with Blue Cross Blue Shield versus what was paid through Allegiance through about a year's worth of data. So the reason that we want to look at these two things is to say, hey, where was the majority of our spend in a provider setting before? And now that we've changed our plan designs, we've changed our network, what is that looking like now? Now, it is an immature contract. We only have 4 months of data right now through Blue Cross Blue Shield when we put that out there, but it's still a good way to juxtapose those two spendings to understand if it's worthwhile or not. On the left-hand side, as you can see, Baytown Methodist is the highest cost spend for you all. And again, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, that has not changed. Obviously, that is a flagship right inside the community. It is not unheard of for people to want to go to Methodist, right? It's a beautiful facility. Many people feel very comfortable with that. They have great doctors, but they also charge an arm and a leg. We do understand that they are the most expensive in the area. So we do want to create incentives for people to choose other places if they can, but Methodist is still a wonderful facility. As we can go down further, the patient's emergency room, we did have a partnership with them where there was a set dollar copay and actually a free visit opportunity for individuals to go there. We have since changed that. Part of that is because of the cost of an emergency room is exceedingly high. There's a reason why we needed to make that change to help us standardize and supplement our budget. So as you can see, that has fallen off. Now, you're always going to get ER visits, but we want to decrease the number of ER visits that aren't necessary. We don't want somebody to go for a fever. We want them to go because they have a broken bone or because they have 5 or 6, 7 stitches that they need to get done. If you can, please get out to an urgent care. Those are the type of information that we're teaching people on a regular basis, but it's incredibly important that we do to keep our plan spend running at a level perspective. Now, additionally, to help us with our plan spend, we also partnered with AmWins to provide a dependent audit. And the reason that we do that is because your plan is governed by a plan document, which has eligibility requirements. That eligibility requirements requires people to be full-time, requires that if we are to cover somebody on the plan, they have to be a true dependent to the plan or true dependent to you, whether that is your actual spouse or your children. Now, what we have found is that there are some times that people can sneak in a neighbor, sneak in a family member, and unfortunately, those go unchecked. And when those do, those costs exceeding to rise, we are paying for that. But not only additionally, there is a layer of reinsurance that exists that if unfounded, and let's just say a person had $1 million claim and they were ineligible, an ineligible dependent, what that would mean is the plan document would not govern and cover that. So your stop loss would no longer cover that. So what would happen is right now we have reinsurance to cover a large portion of a claimant. If that went away, or that person was ineligible, that would not stand any longer. So our insurance that covers us in those catastrophic cases would no longer cover it. So we have to protect ourselves. So we went through an entire dependent audit. This is the plan. This is the time frame of which we just wrapped up in June right now. And these are the results. So we did see a percentage of about 2.9% of people that were not part of this or that we needed to deal with. There were 4.2% of people that were not were incomplete or non-compliant. Total, we see a projected first year savings by removing these people from the plan from about $315,000. So doing a good job to make sure that we're covering ourselves, and then potential savings achieved over 5 years is about $1.2 million. So a very worthwhile endeavor. It is not easy for people to do. They have to go find their birth certificates. They have to go find their marriage certificates. And I have mine buried somewhere all the way down in my files. It's incredibly difficult to find, but people did it. We went out over and over and over again to make sure that people were involved in it, and it went really well. And I think the results speak for themselves.
Yes, we had 68 people that we found that were not eligible to be on our medical plan. 5 of those were dependents who turned 26 during the audit and aged out. So we ended up with 63 people on our medical plan that were not eligible to be there. They estimate that annually you will spend about $5,000 per dependent. So if we take that times our 63 dependents, that's where the $315 in savings comes from.
Have those 63 dependents been notified yet, or are they hearing about it tonight?
No, they have been notified already, and they are being removed effective June 30th.
Thank you.
Additionally, we have gone out to a pharmacy RFP for 2025. The initial results are in. This has not been brought to the board to vote. It will be brought to the board to vote at a later time. We are still through the procurement timeframe, but we did want to give an important update on how that is looking. Most specifically, we are looking at Blue Cross Blue Shield's Prime formulary, which is what you are currently in. And with this updated pricing mechanism, it's looking like we're going to save about $1.4 million on top of that. So that came out from a pharmacy RFP. The reason that we wanted to do that is we needed more time to calculate the data after coming in as your consultant, and to make sure that we can completely get an updated cost. We did move to Prime last year, but it was on a 1-year deal. So we took it to a 1-year deal to give us time and negotiating opportunity, and that negotiating opportunity is giving us more savings. Now, a quick look at how your plan is running currently for the last 4 months of data, and we are getting May now. The last 4 months of data you can see has run relatively the same. That orange number is run out claims. What run out claims means is that it happened or was incurred before your Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. So Allegiance is still continuing to process what we call run out claims. It happened in December, it happened in November, and now they're getting paid. So they're adjudicating, they're running it, and they're processing the claim and paying it as is. Now, as we get further and further down the line, those numbers go down smaller and smaller and smaller because you have less incurred claims, and we are seeing that play out. Now, your Blue Cross claims in the first month are not that low, but we did receive an incredibly large amount of credits that were negotiated within our RFP, and that gets applied here. So you don't see the Blue Cross medical cost because it brought it down significantly with the amount of credits that we had initially. As we go on, we've seen it taper off, and we see we're at a good standstill from where we are and pushing forward well with claims. Now, current plan year contributions, this is just a reminder on what it costs for an employee and what it costs for the district per employee to have benefits. This is always a reminder. These things will always be in question when we're talking about your budget year to year. Now, That's the reason why we bring this up. As a reminder, last year when we brought these benefits to you all, there was an agreement that we would be about 6.8 over budget from a medical perspective. So there's a deficit and a need for $6.8 million or almost $6.9 million, which was brought to you all. That middle column is the latest estimate where we run a reforecast. So we take multiple more months of data and we reforecast it. It's saying about the same thing. We're about $6.8 to $6.9 million in deficit. In 2026, and this is just to Dr. Akers' point, is that medical costs continue to inflate. They inflate at 7 to 8% on a regular basis. Your pharmacy costs inflate to about 13%. When you compound those together, we're at about 9%. So assume a 9% increase on a regular basis to operate these costs. So in 2026, by the end of 2026, we will be at an $8.9 million deficit, of which we will need to deal with. We have discussed in multiple areas on how we are going to do those things. We will bring more opportunities for savings as we come in the next few weeks or in the next few months. The benchmarking is included here so that you can go back to it. I think that boards find this incredibly important when you're talking about, hey, what are our average costs versus our peer districts? And so we put those all together there. It outlines the number of schools, the number of students, the number of employees. You all probably know all of that. Then the carriers that they are with, if they are with TRS or not, and then the number of medical plans that they are offering. At the bottom is the district contributions. Now, please note, every district contribution is different. Some people offer a district contribution on a per enrolled amount, how many people have elected medical. Some people offer it on all of their full-time employees. Some districts offer a set subsidy and then they pull from the general fund every year. It is not always indicative of how much everybody is investing in their programs, okay? Just like yours says 310, it does not calculate the $6.9 million that you're putting into your budget this year, and many other districts operate in that same fashion. The other items are how much employees pay, whether that is for their own coverage or whether that is for family coverage. Okay, so those are a way to be able to show how you all are doing versus district to district. In the future, the next few months, you are going to hear a few opportunities, one of which will be plan design and contribution changes. We may see we may see an increase to contributions, or we may see a change to plan designs to help us grow with the looming budget. Additionally, we are looking at other ways to be able to bring down the spend. We are looking at a partnership with BEXA, which is on-site mammograms, where they utilize a device that is no bigger than a mouse, and they can do that at every single facility if we choose to do that, or we can do it at a few different facilities as well. They're very well priced, and if we can find and deal with early detection on breast cancer, which is incredibly high risk for your population, if we can find and determine it early, we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars to those claims. We're also talking about a potential Go to Doctor campaign, any way that we can get people to engage with their primary care physician. And then lastly, we're also considering a few other items, specifically with that Next Level Prime and potentially bringing that back, understanding that people were incredibly happy with it, a maternity program enhancement, and then potentially pharmacy navigation. With that, I'll yield my time. If you have questions, we're both here to answer them.
A quick question. What wasn't listed on our number of staff that participate in the program? Have that increased or decreased over the last year?
It stayed about the same. Out of our 3,800 or so employees, we have about 2,000 that participate in the medical. And you know, one of the things we want to do is really continue to promote the wellness clinic, because that's a tremendous benefit that we have here. That is free to all full-time employees, whether they're on our medical coverage or not. And I think that's really important for some of our staff who may find it difficult to afford health care. And then moving forward, we'll be back in September to give you the proposal. We'll do open enrollment in October, and then which will start our new plan year starting January 1st. So we'll be here in September with those new rates and to show you the new plans.
Before you come back in September, can you introduce him?
Yes, sir. This is Derek Eco. He is our consultant with Gallagher.
Ms. Akers, going back to the wellness clinic, does that tie into this the benefit side, or is that funded completely separate?
It's operated by my office and funded out of the general budget that is put into my budget.
So our medical coverage does not, it's not linked, that's totally separate.
No, it's completely separate. It has nothing to do with our medical coverage. It's just, again, it's one of those things I think that we have to do a better job of promoting, because that is a benefit that I only know of one or two other school districts that may have that. And so we have to make sure our employees are aware of it. We did recently, just to update you, I did request HCA to change our provider at the wellness clinic. I didn't feel the provider that we had was the right person for our district, because I think to be a provider at the wellness clinic, you have to immerse yourself in the district, become a part of it, know our employees, know them by name, and be able to address their health needs. So we are currently interviewing for a new provider, but we do have substitute providers there through the summer.
Thank you for clarifying. I agree, it is a win-win. It's no cost to our employees. It's fairly quick, and it helps out tremendously on our costs for medical coverage. Are there any further questions for the panel?
One question. You know how they have the large portable MRIs and mammograms that come to a certain area or whatever? Are we utilizing anything of that nature?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have Right Way Imaging. We have a partnership with them, and they come in every year and they go to every location that has at least 12 people sign up. But we also do it like here and at the ESC, and they do 22 screenings. It takes 10 minutes, it's completely painless, and our employees really appreciate that.
So we promote that pretty much?
Absolutely. We do on-site meetings at all of the faculty meetings, at all of the campuses, and at all of our auxiliary buildings as well. And we have a tremendous participation in that.
Okay.
And I'm most excited about the BEXA program that Derek mentioned. This is just a new technology that would allow us to provide a mammogram on site to every single woman in this district. And I think that is tremendous, because we all know, we all have a friend that has suffered breast cancer that didn't get their screening because they just didn't fit that time into their day. So we want to continue to find innovative programs that, again, will attract and retain that top talent.
And we talked about the promoting and advertising of the wellness center and some other things, but I think that's the major thing. We need to promote it and advertise it a little bit better so we can have more employees come to the wellness center.
I would agree with that, Mr. Sampson. And Ms. Akers, I want to ask you about this because I ask every year. The wellness clinic is valuable to our employees. They love it, but they have a hard time getting in for appointments sometimes. And I know we cut the hours back at one point, but then we opened it back up. Are we looking to expand that? I know there's costs on the other budget side of it, but every time an employee goes to that clinic, it's a whole lot cheaper, I'm sure, than sending them to a doctor or urgent care ER for themselves and for us as a board that has to manage this budget. Are we looking at expanding that wellness clinic this year?
I would love nothing more than to put in a second provider at the wellness clinic and perhaps expand to have weekend hours as well. But I'm making sure Ms. Clark isn't throwing things at the back of my head. So it's just simply a funding issue. If we can find that funding in the budget, I would love nothing more. Our facility is certainly big enough to be able to have 2 practitioners there, and that would just increase the number of appointments and the hours and the days we could offer that.
I'd be interested in seeing the numbers on that. If we were to expand that, how much would it offset the medical side that the costs are, higher and higher? They're going up to 8.9 now by the end of 2026. That's a huge number. They're going up very high all the time. I'd be curious to see, while it may take more funding on one side, it may reduce funding on the other side, and may be a wash, but I'd be interested in that.
Well, and the wellness clinic really helps us with our employees who are monitoring those chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension, because they can get their wellness checks there. They can have their medication maintained there. So it really helps, and it's convenient, so it's more incentive for them to take care of themselves.
That's what I'm hearing too. They could actually go on a lunch or right after work and be right back on campus.
Yes, and
rather
on
than
Tuesday,
drive out.
Thursdays, we expanded our hours till 7 o'clock. So that really helped a lot of our people who work 7:30 to 4:30, then they could actually get in.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for the panel?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think I speak for this entire board up here that we appreciate your work and what you've done with the benefit side. When you come into this position, we had a monster on our hands that we had to deal with, and I think you've done very well with it. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you.
We thank Gallagher for the partnership as well.
Thank you.
Thank both of you. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to action items. Dr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just sort of a follow-up on before presenting the action items to you. Just as a reminder, as a part of Ms. Clark's presentation, that our budget adoption cycle or year ends June 30th, and the legislative session is not formally over until the same time. I believe no action can be taken between now and then, but so it makes it somewhat difficult because we've had a little bit of a paradigm shift in funding from our legislators, where it previously went to funding towards basic allotment to now specific funding, which has created some of the chaos for our CFO. So just wanted to clarify that some of the funding matters are still subject to interpretation, as was pointed out by one of our speakers, but more so, we're waiting on the interpretation by the Commissioner of Education. He generally will follow up a legislative session about 60 days after the session ends. So we may not hear the formal interpretation until September 1st. So I just want to say I commend you on having the foresight to follow along with the budget proposal for the last 6 months, but also understanding for our audience to know that budget amendments could be forthcoming in the future once interpretations do shake out on some of these unknown matters. With that, we'll go to action item 7A, consideration and approval of adoption of the 25-26 budget, proposed budget for the general fund, debt service fund, and the school nutrition funds.
What is the favor of the board?
Move to approve. And I'll second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Martinez, a second by Mrs. Guy. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor by show of...
Sorry, I didn't
I'm sorry.
read fast enough.
Go ahead, Mr. Clem.
I'd just like to point out again that we're adopting this budget looking through our crystal ball and assuming that our local funding is going to be the 132, knowing that that can be compressed further by tax compression and new homestead exemption. And we're adopting this budget based on a 1.0725 tax rate, and we're committing ourselves to that tax rate unless the state says we have to do otherwise by adopting this budget.
Agreed. Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands. Seeing 7 for and 0 against, the motion carries. Dr. O'Brien.
The next action item is 7B, consideration and approval of a revised 25-26 compensation plan.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Clem, a second by Ms. Barat Timms. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor by show of hands. Seeing 7 for and 0 against, motion carries.
The next action item is 7C, consideration of consent agenda. Number 1, memorandum of understanding, interlocal agreement between Goose Creek CISD and Harris County for Community Youth Services, otherwise known as KYS. Number 2, Communities and Schools of Baytown, memorandum of agreement. Excuse me. 2025-2026. Number 3, 24-25 budget amendments. Number 4, 25-26 budget amendments. Number 5, renewal of commercial property, windstorm, flood, earth movement, that's a new term, mechanical breakdown, terrorism, crime, storage tank pollution, auto liability, and general liability insurance coverage for Goose Creek CISD. Number 6, CSP 25.004, extend award for career and technical education, CTE equipment, supplies, and related services. Number 7, CSP 25.009, extended response for award fresh baked goods. Number 8, CSP 25.09, extended response award for catering services. Number 9, CSP 26.06, award fundraising items and services. Number 10, CSP 25.02, extended response award miscellaneous retail goods and services. Number 11, CSP 25.003, extended response award police and security equipment, supplies, and related services. Number 12, CSP 21.017, final extension technology equipment, supplies, and related services. Number 13, Kids U, Us, Inc., DBA, Fueling Brains lease agreement extension. The administration brings these consent agenda items to the board for their consideration and recommended approval.
Thank you, Dr. O'Brien. Before I ask for a motion, I will ask if anyone has any items they would like to separate out for separate vote and discussion or answer any questions. And today I'll start with my left, Ms. Guy. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Clem, Mr. Sampson. This is too easy. Ms. Brattims, Mr. Renteria. I had one, it was just clarification on something. Ms. Clark, I hate to bring you up because I know you're not feeling well, but it's related to items 3 and 4, budget amendments. And I was looking at the, let's see, the fund balance going from the 2024-2025 amendment. How does that relate to the fund balance when it goes over to the 25-26? Because those numbers didn't calculate out for me at all.
What we have to do for, yeah, thank you.
Welcome, Leanna.
Yes. This is a bit confusing, so I'll clarify. So for 24-25, we have to make sure that we have our budget by function and not exceed the budget by function. So we have to put a cushion precautionary budget amendment in place for 24-25, because there will be more expenditures that come through after the budget year is closed, and this is the last opportunity to amend the budget, right, for 24-25. That being said, we have to put cushions in there, and you can say, even if you're 1% off, it's $2.5 million on a $250 million expenditure. So you have to put in, you know, a little bit of a cushion. So we don't think we'll hit that number, but we don't know where exactly it may fall. And so that's why you see the differential of like almost $5 million, because we're trying to make sure we don't exceed those functions. But we don't think we'll hit those aggregate expenditures in that amount,
okay,
if that makes sense.
So that cushion that you're speaking of, it's not in one line, it's throughout.
It's, yes, sir.
Okay,
yes.
Very good. And then my other question, looking at the 24-25, the current one, we had an increase very high in instruction line 11, $8 million. What's the justification or the reason or cause for that? Line 11 up top in expenditures.
Right. We're trying, on that one, we're trying, that's the largest of our functions because of it being instruction. And so in order to make that cushion to where we don't exceed that function, we have to put a little bit more in there, right?
In other words, the 24 is less because 90% of the school year has passed. With the 25-26 upcoming year amendments, you don't have that history to monitor that by.
Right, but we're looking specifically at 24-25, and we've already made 2 budget amendments. We went from 149 to 157, and now we're adding another 8. That's just kind of, why are we exceeding the original budget on that?
We're just shoring up at the end because it's just such a large function. It's more payroll related. And do you have something you want to add?
Hello.
Hello.
On the very first budget amendment that changed from the 149 to the 157, that was due to the insurance increase that we adopted or amended. And then the rest is just building in the precautionary with TIA payments and other payoffs this time of year that we can't project.
It's all payroll related. It's insurance, it's TIA.
So the insurance was when we terminated the former provider and had outstanding balance with that termination carried forward, and then we went with a new provider who presented tonight.
Right. This was the district supplement to keep the premiums low for our employees. So this is where it shows. Yes.
Majority of the cost.
The majority of it was Function 11. Yes, sir.
Is any of that encumbrances that are yet to be paid?
This includes encumbrances. I mean, they may not have been paid yet, but they're accounted for here.
Okay, seeing the fund balance, how low that dropped, that caught me off guard, but it looks like we make up for it on 25, 26. That answers my questions. Do y'all have anything else?
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. So going back to action item 7C, consideration of consent agenda, items 1 through 13 with no further discussion. What's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Renteria and a second by Mr. Clem. Any further discussion? All in favor by a show of hands. Seeing 7 for, 0 against, the motion carries. Move on to item D of the agenda. Future board agenda items, board training, board meetings. We'll start with future board agenda items.
I have a couple for you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned earlier how the legislators have sort of paradigm shifted from basic allotment funding to individualized funding. Similarly, the accountability system has changed over the last few years. And so we feel like it's necessary to bring before the board at the next board meeting preliminary accountability scores, and to furthermore, not just the raw scores, although they're preliminary, but to explain the process by which they've changed over the last few years by the actions of the Commissioner of Education. So that is one item that we would like to present to the board for future items. And then the Commissioner's interpretation, I've already mentioned, likely won't come through until September, but that's, again, he could come through with the interpretation tomorrow. We don't know, but it's likely to be somewhere in the next 60 days.
Consider.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on tomorrow.
Consider it done. Ms. Garcia, if you would add that to the agenda for next meeting.
I would like to ask that we visit our CW local policy on facilities naming, and perhaps work with our policy writers at TASB to include a timeline in this process, because I am not okay with being handed nomination packets at 3:30 before a 6 o'clock meeting and having to consider half a ream of paper in the back room when we go back there. So there is nothing about a timeline in here as far as when information is delivered to the board, so we have time to consider it all.
Thank you, Mr. Clem. I will say that is on the agenda for closed session regarding legal counsel on that item. So we may get you answers today. If not, we could add that to the next one.
A little bit.
Go ahead, Ms.
We do refer
Rogers.
to committee for further study on that in the future as we look at it.
On CW local?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'll add your name to it. Any other future board agenda items? Hearing none. Item number 2, board training. 4 of us went to board training recently this past week at TASB. It was myself, Mrs. Guy, Mrs. Brat-Timms, and Mr. Clem, along with Dr. O'Brien and
Mr. Sampson.
Mr. Sampson.
The other Mr. Clem.
I look, Mr. Clem goes to every one. My apologies, Mr. Sampson. Mr. Sampson and I talked quite a bit at that. Mr. Sampson, I apologize. Yes, Mr. Sampson and not Mr. Clem, who is a statue at all of these. Everywhere I go, where's Mr. Clem? But anyway, we went to a lot of good trainings. Does anyone want to speak on any of them? Just a quick highlight what we learned about. She sure did. Several of us went to ledge training, and it spoke a lot about what was talked about today. Ms. Matthews, I'll just point out, what we were told in our ledge training up there is under House Bill 2, they are classifying, they have a definition that applies to classroom teachers and is defined for the specific purpose of House Bill 2. And I was trying to find it up here tonight, and I couldn't do it without my iPad shutting down and doing other stuff. But what they informed us of is a classroom teacher is defined specifically for the raise. I see Ms. Clark shaking her head yes, and there is definition in there. But if you do find out anything different, sure, let us know. I'm going to research it myself, and I know Ms. Clark has already been looking into it as well. But we learned a lot about the legislature. We learned about some other programs and such that we're very interested in bringing back to the board to consider for future, maybe bringing it here at Goose Creek. A lot of good training. A lot of good training this time. It was a great session.
Sorry I couldn't make it. Some of us work for a living. But,
we do. Some
Just
of us
saying.
do. Fortunately, I have
That's
a job
right,
that allows
that's
me to
right.
go. All right, moving on to board meetings.
We're back on a regular board meeting schedule.
All right. The next board meeting will be on July 14th, regular board meeting, 6 o'clock here, same place, same time. And then the following one will be August 4th for another regular board meeting.
July 14th.
All right, at this time, I should either pick either paper or electronic and not go back and forth. All right. At this time, the board will recess into closed session. The board will now recess into closed session pursuant to one or more of the following sections of the Texas Government Code. Sections 551071, 072, 073, 074, 075, 076, 082, 083, 084, 087, and 089. Make sure I didn't miss any. No action will be taken while the board is in closed session. The time is now 7:38. The board will now reconvene in open session. The time is now 9:36 p.m. No action was taken while the board was in closed session. All right, Dr. O'Brien, we'll move on to item G, consideration of personnel.
Yes, Mr. President, we have administration brings before the board for consideration this evening approval of elections.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion by Mrs. Guy, a second by Mr. Renteria. Any discussion? All in favor by show of hands. I see 7 for, 0 against. Motion carries.
And next we have up accept resignations, retirements, and administrative reassignments as presented.
Move to approve.
Second. I have a motion to approve by Ms. Barat-Timms and a second by Mr. Renteria. Any discussion? All in favor signify by a show of hands. I see 7 for, 0 against. Motion passes.
Administration brings before the board this evening a few administrative elections. The first being, excuse me. You can have that water. The first being Career and Technical Education Specialist, Andres Torres.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Clem and a second by Mrs. Barat-Timms. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by a show of hands. I see 7 for, 0 against. Passes.
Next is Dakota Pearson as counselor at Cedar Bayou Junior School.
Move to approve.
Second. I have a motion by Mrs. Barat-Timms and a second by Mr. Renteria. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, show of hands. I see 7 for, 0 against. Motion passes. you're pulling C.
There was an intentional void there. So next up is educational diagnostician Maritza Pruitt.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Renteria and a second by Mrs. Guy. Any discussion on this item? All in favor, please signify by a show of hands. 7-4, 0 against, motion passes.
Back to you, Mr. President.
All right, we'll move on to letter H.
Mr. President, I move that the board amend the superintendent's contract and approve the related agreement as discussed in executive session.
I have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second by Ms. Helen Barat-Timms. Any discussion on this item? All in favor? Show of hands. Motion passes. Can we go on to the other two first? We'll move on to letter I. Dr. O'Brien. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Clem.
On item I would like to make a motion that we postpone to a future agenda and to give all board members fair review of all nominations submitted by the previously established deadline.
Mr. Clem, will you amend your motion to make that specific to the Stallworth Stadium Fieldhouse?
Oh, yes. Well, I said to item I, but that's the renaming of the Stallworth Fieldhouse.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Mr. Clem and a second by Mr. Renteria to repeat that one more time, if you would.
To postpone to a future agenda so that all board members have a fair time period to review all the nominations submitted by the previously established deadline.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor, show of hands. Seeing 7-4, 0 against, motion passes. Letter J, Mr. Clem.
Concerning...
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back and tab. I'm sorry, I thought I saw it wrong. So let's do the vote all over again one more time. All in favor, show of hands. Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay, so I have 5-4, 0 against, 2 abstentions. Mr. Sampson and Ms. Barat-Timms. Thank you for that. I apologize for that. Mr. Clem, letter J.
It's only concerning the naming of the Professional Development and Event Center, I make a motion that we postpone to a future agenda so that all board members present have a fair review of all nominations submitted by the previously established deadline.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Clem and a second by Mr. Renteria. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, show of hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing 5-4, 0 against, and 2 abstentions. Mr. Sampson and Ms. Barat-Timms, motion passes. With no further, oh, I'm sorry.
Item H.
I was, thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to yield back to Dr. O'Brien to comment on item H.
Mr. President, Board of Trustees, and our audience, want to announce tonight my intentions to retire at the end of the fall semester. And I want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude and appreciation for your confidence in me as a board, my executive team for the support you've shown me throughout our tenure together, and for the community in general. It's hard to explain when you arrive somewhere at a new location, which I did 12 years ago, the feeling of home, but it's what it felt like the moment I stepped onto the property, and with every encounter I had with each individual, employee, citizen, student, I felt like I had arrived at home, my final destination for my employment and my career. And I've been blessed to serve this community for the last 12 years. And after consulting with my family in consideration of our future together, I've made this very tough decision, and I want to extend my gratitude to you for accepting my retirement proposal for the end of the end of December. So, and generally, I just want to say thank you to this community for allowing us to work hard together. This board, for those of you who don't know, was nominated as a Texas Honor Board just a few years ago, but it's because of them becoming coalescing and buying into the same common vision of developing the whole child. And that's allowed us to do many wonderful things over the last decade. And I'm grateful, appreciative to each and every one of you and our community as well. And with that, I'll yield back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan. And on behalf of the board, we thank you for your service. Goose Creek looks the way it does today because of the vision you brought to Goose Creek. And I, for one, believe Goose Creek looks a lot better now than it did before you come. I thank you for that. I think this team of 7 + 1 8 really thanks you for that, and the people that stand behind you. And we look forward to working with you 6 more months, and we wish you Godspeed moving forward and the best to you. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments you'd like to share? I'll open it up.
I just want to congratulate Randy on controlling his emotions.
Now, you're not supposed to tell people what happens in the back, right?
I didn't say nothing. I just congratulated on controlling them.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned, 9:44.
Yay.
Yep.